Great. After you've hooked up the tripod and the telescope, we're actually now ready to hook up the camera system, which you're going to use to record RECON events. There are 3 devices that are needed for this. One is the Malincam camera, which Jack Malincam has built for us out of his company in New York State. The second device is the IOTA VTI timing device, and what this does is it puts a timing stamp on every frame of video that's coming from the video camera. And the third and last component is the Acer laptop, which is the recording device for video coming from the camera. In order to attach the camera to the telescope, you need to use a thing called a focal reducer. This actually serves 2 functions. This is actually a lens that will widen the field of view of what we can see through the telescope. And then secondly, this barrel can serve as an attachment for putting into the telescope. So Matthew, if you want to take the lens cap off of the Malincam, this keeps dust and other moisture and contaminants from affecting the chip. And you can see that chip right inside of there. That little silicon chip is what's recording the actual photons of light coming from the sky. And then we're going to screw the focal reducer into the camera so that it can serve as an attachment. I will then remove this eyepiece, give that to you, and we can then attach the camera to the telescope. And the orientation of this actually matters. You'll be able to see Malincam here, and you want to place that so that it is facing down into the barrel and closest to the telescope in this orientation. You don't want it kind of sideways or diagonal or facing away from the telescope. You want to place it down so that it's on this orientation. So we now need to think about how are we going to get power to all of these and how are we going to get data from all of these. The power cable is this small cable. Notice that it's actually a cable with a cigarette-style plug-in, but it also has an additional splitter right there. So this is the initial attachment cable, but this splitter actually splits power coming from the adapter into 2 different outputs. And so Matthew, if you want to go ahead and plug that splitter into the other second unit of the power supply. Notice again that we're using one of these to go power the telescope and the other to power the camera. You can now use that to plug in one of the connections to the IOTA timing device. You can set that back onto the crate. And then the second power cord goes into one end of this long, super long cable, which is actually going to carry both data and power from and to the camera. So you'll grab the end of the cable that connects to that adapter and plug that in on one end. And then on the other end, you can take the similar power connector and plug it into the top of the camera. At that point, you'll actually get power to the camera. And so we can see if I adjust this, that there's actually a red light source right here, that when it's unplugged, it's off, and when it's plugged in, you can see that you're getting power from the camera. So now the timing box and the camera have power. Now we want to get data back from the camera to our computer, and this other end of the power cable connects to the top end of the data output on the camera. This is a BNC device that needs to be pushed in and twisted. Good, great. And that's now sending data back out of the camera. On the other end of the same cable, this long cable again, there is a second attachment which has a regular RCA connector. And you can plug that into the in part of the IOTA box. That's sending data into the box, and it just actually pushes in. Now we need to take data out of that timing box, and that's where we use this device. This is actually, again, another set of 2 cables. This is just a regular RCA cable that has RCA on 2 ends, and it plugs into this adapter, which takes the signal from the camera and uses a USB device that's going to go into our computer. So if you want to go ahead and plug the RCA end of the cable into the out box, then we're getting data out of the IOTA box. And then we will plug the USB end of this into the laptop. And let's go ahead and open up the laptop and turn it on. We can now check to make sure that we have everything connected. We have power to these two devices, and we have data coming back all the way through to the computer. And in our next guide, we're going to talk about what you would do with the computer to record data, and this is the appropriate time to check to make sure all those connections were made properly.